Roxanne's on the way.
One.
So where do you want me to sit?
Just go ahead, I'll wait.
Just here. Just here.
Yeah.
Oh, Jacques,
Hello.
could you sit at the head of the
Where do
table?
you want to sit there?
Yeah, that's fine. I've even prepared some paper for you if you want to draw some diagrams and stuff.
You want to start the questions before they come?
Should we?
It's up to you.
We can do.
Just informal meeting. We're just going to sit around and I'm going to film it. So.
I'd like to be able to answer whatever questions you guys can raise
Okay.
for posterity.
Yes.
We just got a nasty letter from Zeitgeist people saying, why are you charging for books? Why don't you give them away?
Right.
Because there's 40,000 haven't printed. If they keep putting the load on us, we can't carry it. We live in a monetary system. They don't say, take all the land you want, Jock. We put up 10 buildings, we paid for it.
Exactly.
And I don't know what they expect, but a lot of these, I don't know if you know this, but one of the girls put up $5,000 for the taxi.
Yeah, Heather.
Yeah, Heather.
Yeah.
And they wrote it and it said something about, be transparent, let me see where the money is going. She put up the money, they didn't. What the hell have they got to demand on Heather?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's amazing that they don't seem to understand that.
If you could give away your books for free, you would, but you can't. You're in a
How do I
monetary
print
system.
them?
Yeah, exactly.
When we make these videos, it takes me 2.5 years to make the models for that opening film.
Right.
And in the meantime, they want me to just give it to everybody. I'm not Bill Gates. If I were, I would. I don't know, maybe you have to write them and tell them those things.
It's a shame.
And apparently, are either very young kids that don't understand.
Because we have to do that with our events as well. We can't just pay for an event
Sure.
and just give it away free tickets. Because we have to fund that event.
That's right.
And people say, why don't you just have it for free?
Because they don't give us the auditorium for
Exactly,
free.
exactly.
If you can get them to do that, we will.
Yeah.
And even if we
Or
did
if
it
you
someplace
pay
for
for it,
free, you still
Pay
have
for the printing of the books, we'll give them
things
away.
like that if you want to record things.
But don't put it on Roxanne and Jock. We've been doing a lot for years. Oh, this is good. I see you got some paper for me.
Yes.
I don't know if you can photograph the drawings, if I need
Yeah.
to do any.
I'll come
It should be
over.
alright, yes.
So could you just talk a little bit about, maybe get started on what you were explaining to me yesterday about automation, and I was talking to you about
You know,
this.
I have to sit much closer to hear that.
Do you want me to move over here?
What is that? An old
I was
book?
talking to you about this book, and you said it doesn't really go the whole
Yeah,
way.
it worked. No, it doesn't include the money system, banks and all that.
Yeah.
It just talks about some aspects of the system.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't show how to educate people so they can work together. See, a lot of books, even the books on my list, like semantics, doesn't touch the system.
Right.
And I understand some communists picked up the book on general semantics, and he wrote that capitalist A is not capitalist B. But they're so similar it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, but semantics deals with communication, language, which is good, but it doesn't touch the system.
Right.
And if you don't touch the system, you really are not dealing with social change. At least that's the way I see it. But if you have any counter arguments, bring them up. I would like people to say, instead of, suppose I don't want to live in a round city. Well, what's the matter with it? Well, transportation or something. But if they don't say anything, I don't know what to do. As they say, well, our houses, suppose I don't want to live next door to niggers. Suppose they're brought up in the South. Well, I'm going to say, well, they don't want to live next door to you either. Well, if you're a bigot, but they don't think about those things.
Right.
They say, are there going to be spics living next door to me? There are a lot of mixed up people in the world, and it's very hard to get to all of them.
How can we kind of get that out of the system where people are so dependent on other people's opinions so they can form their own opinions? How do we break that?
Fortunately, we don't have to convince everybody.
Yeah.
See, it's just, I probably can say no more than 100 people made this world. I mean, the electric lights, the power generators, I don't think it's more than, and we all live on their backs. You know what I mean? And I always ask people, they come to help the Venus Project. And I tell them, can you increase food growth? No. Can you do this? No. I said, how can you help? Go back to school and study some useful profession. And, but they want to help, Then write to people, talk to people, do whatever you can. That's all I can say. But if there are questions, they should ask all questions. Now, there are articles coming out, Fresco gets his money from the Vatican. That's not true at all. I get nothing from the Vatican. Or he gets it from the Rothschild banking in England. A lie, completely unreal. I think I know why people do that, just to divert attention. But they don't know what they're writing about. Or he's got 2 Mercedes. He doesn't have any cars at all. Oh, they may have seen a helicopter on our land.
Yeah.
Somebody flew in next door. But they think Fresco has helicopters and all kinds of things. And somebody has to tell them that. That cooperation means joint venture. Don't put the load on us. If you can't make a donation, talk to people about it. I always tell people to not attack religion, because there's so many religious people in the world, we can't afford to have them attack us. Just say that I think the Venus Project carries out the Christ teachings, Mohammedan's teachings. It's world without exploitation or abuse. And I think that religious people, if they knew that, would not be against it. So if you go to church, talk about the Venus Project. Say, yes, we always gave lip service, but the Venus Project is proposing a world without money. What's the matter with money? I always tell people, Jesus said, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. There's no money in heaven as far as I know. I don't think there's private property, and I don't think there's social stratification, except for God and his angels. But I don't see that, and they say, well, my kingdom is up there. They don't understand the Lord's Prayer then. And also, do unto others, you have others do unto you. That means don't kill people, to me. So I would say, when Larry King said, what do you think of religion? I said, it's good. When are they putting it into practice? I've never met a Christian. I mean, a person that behaves that way. Have you? Maybe there are some, like Doctors Without Borders, you know who they are? Yeah. They go to other lands and feed people and treat them medically on their own without any money. But they have to work in the States to save up to go there, to be able to do that for 2 years or a year. Yeah. And they should be sponsored by the federal government or the public. They're not. To me, they're really religious people. I respect them. If they go to church, work, and then go and help people in an earthquake and all that, that's great. I can't go on the World Lecture Tour and unless I buy airline tickets.
Yes.
And the government doesn't give me airline tickets. They go and tell people what you're doing. Then when we get to a certain place, they tell us that the venue for the lecture hall is $3,000 for 3 hours. Jesus Christ. Public doesn't volunteer anything, and they don't come anywhere near what we need to do the job. You'll have to talk to them. It's bad for me to defend myself, you know.
Yes.
You have to tell. And then when they see that shit about the Vatican sponsoring us, the Vatican doesn't even know us. But they're going to spread whatever they can out there. Does that stuff work? You can't tell?
I can't tell yet. It's a little, I don't know yet. What's happening now is Andrew was telling me that the book the best that money can't buy is going out on the internet, and a lot of the Zygites members are putting it up and saying that everything that we have should be free, because it's to help mankind, and all Jacques' models should be free and out there, open source. But they never put any money up to get it published. You know what I mean? They haven't contributed. It's not cooperative. We carry the whole thing. We had to work on the outside in order to pay for that. We had to work on the outside in order to pay for everything there. And so Jacques could make the models, you know. They never cooperated.
That might make sense if somehow the movement could supplement your income you get from that, so then you could do that. But that's not going to happen, is it?
No, they don't donate. Very few donations.
Whatever the name of this building is, they didn't say come here and stay here for a week, you know.
As soon as money gets involved and stuff, it makes everything weird. And, you know, it's...
Yeah, but they don't understand that we're paying for it in order to put it out there.
Yes, I mean, and to the logistics of travelling around the world, you know, it costs a lot of money. I mean, how much have you spent on plane tickets?
They
Over
sound like very young
50,000
kids.
just on
I
plane
really
tickets for
don't
the whole thing.
understand that.
Then hotels, $150 a night, $100 a night. You can get it that little.
Wow.
Because Jacques needs air conditioning, you know what I mean, for his sinus problem. So it's, you know, I hate harping on that a lot. We've been harping on that a lot since we got here.
Maybe you shouldn't say anything about it and let other people, but don't defend yourself on it, because as soon as then you have to keep reiterating and keep going, just ignore it altogether. I think that's not.
We've been doing that anyway.
And then you guys can put up some posts and say stuff, but don't even respond to it.
Because you constantly get new people coming in that say these things, the same other things, and you just have to explain to them.
It's just like people, it's always killed me when they said, well, we want you to be transparent about everything, and they've never put up a dime.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Where does your money go to? I think I must have made at least, over the 30 years, I probably made $1 million and put it all in here, and they haven't done anything.
Right.
That's what our money goes to. That's what it's for. There's nothing else that it goes to. We're not interested in anything else.
You shouldn't even begin to try and justify it. It's just waste. Yeah, no. These people just have too much time on their hands, and you know, there's more important things to worry about. You know, it's like, you know, can we see if all your earnings of the last, you know, their earnings?
Where does your
Can we see
money
yours?
go to?
There's your transparency.
If I give you $1, where does it go? What transparency?
It's just splitting hairs.
I'm going to wipe my ass with your
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Seems good so far.
Do you know what you should do? You know.
You have to look for it
Do
until.
you know what you should do? When somebody says something outrageous about you, you should say something even more outrageous. Like they say you sponsored, you know, the Vatican sponsors you. You say yes, yes, and also the Rothschilds and all the other one. We're getting the income is flying. Yeah. Tell you where.
I wish we had them sponsoring us.
Bill Gates wants to borrow money from us.
Always make it even more outrageous, because then it just debunks what they're saying. Like, oh yeah, okay.
When you ask questions, speak up, because they don't work that good. Are you waiting for others?
Yeah, but
Or is this
they're. I said 11:30 because we were gonna meet downstairs, so I don't think they're gonna be here before then. You know, so.
You had that question about automation?
We're talking about what I'm interested in Jacques, is
Tell it to Roxanne. She'll tell you.
Can you hear him now or no?
Can I talk? Well, I'll say it very loud. The automation, acceleration, more no jobs for people.
Yes.
We were talking yesterday about how when you talk to people about, you know, there are going to be less jobs, then they start listening, because everybody. So the end of monotonous work, and how that's going to render more and more people out of work. So automation and stuff like
Did
that.
you hear that?
No, I couldn't
I
hear
remember what you were talking about yesterday with, he has trouble with accents too. I mean,
Oh, I
slight
see.
accent,
Sorry,
yeah, so it makes it harder. You were talking to Jason a lot about no work in the future. The professions would be automated. Is that the issue mainly?
That's it. Yeah.
But we would like to get it on camera. He'd like to get it on camera. What you said it was excellent about, because people don't understand how things would be automated and they will be out of a job.
Oh, they're not out of a job. We list everything that needs to be done. Like, we don't know really about high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer. There's no real cure. They can use radiation and give you another 5 years of life, pain and all that. And all the labs are always asking for money for studying retinal degeneration, and labs don't do what they want to do, they do what they can with the funds they get. Do you understand? So we're saying every lab, if we control the Earth's resources, would be provided with whatever they need. Now I'm sure during the transition, the guy says, can we have a microscope? Do you need 2? Or do you need 3? They're always conservative. So we have enough optical materials to make billions of lenses or electron microscopes. They don't take a lot of money. Like somebody told me these hearing aids sell for $5,000,
6.
but they cost about $3 to make in materials. So people get money on patents and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair for people, but what I think doesn't matter. But if we control the Earth's resources, we can make anything. The only interference is money. Since people own the mines, they own the diamond mines, they own the glass factories, so they charge. Everybody charges everybody. If you get a flat, somebody charges you to fix that. But if you own the resources of the world, you don't need to worry about enough glass. We got enough sand to make the whole surface of the earth glass if we wanted to. But if you own the sand companies, he owns the melting companies, he owns the shaping factories, well, you got all of those costs. Even if you mine coal, you have to deliver the coal 3,000 miles away. That's part of the energy. And the paying people to dig the coal out of the ground, buying trucks, all of that has to be factored in. How much heat do you get from coal? You can't measure the coal alone and the heat you get from it. What about the energy to mine it, deliver it, and the freight trains you have to build to carry it? All of that has to be factored in. So all I'm saying is if we go to a resource-based economy, the public owns all of that. And so we just use it as we need it. Now, for instance, does the public participate? Only if they can. I said, can you make mining equipment so that men don't have to go down into the ground? No. Well, who's going to do the dirty work? Well, I think the only way to get people to do the dirty work during the transition is to say you work 3 hours a day, only 3 days a week, you get a month vacation. By varying those things, you get people to do the dirty work during the transition. Once we get going, we don't need people to do that because we put mining engineers on machines to do the mining. And so you don't have to worry about cave-ins and gas leaks and explosions. I don't want people down under the ground anyway. You know what I mean? But transitionally, somebody has to do the dirty work. So you vary the incentives. If you work in a coal mine, maybe 2 hours a day. You know what I mean? But lots of structural reinforcement also. But a mining company doesn't want to put in oxygen tanks and emergency vehicles that get out, that can stand cave-in pressures. You know, where's the profit in coal if you do that? If you give all the people in your factory health care and service their automobiles and take care of a place for their children, he says, where the hell's the profit? Who's going to invest in my company? You know, the profit margin has to go up for people who invest. And people don't invest because they're Christians. They invest for profit, returns on investment. Otherwise they wouldn't invest. If I'm wrong, let me know where I'm wrong. I don't see people working for the goodness of their heart, except Doctors Without Borders. You know what that is? There are people that do that. I respect them. I deeply admire them. But you can only count them. There are not millions that
Well,
do
there
that.
are millions that volunteer for different things,
Oh,
different
different
charities.
things,
They really
yes.
are.
Yes. And they say, what incentive will people have if you take away the money system? Well, why did Martin Luther King march into the South? He believed in what he was doing. Nobody put $40,000 in his bank account. And the same with Gandhi. He worked for nothing. So did Jesus. So did Lindbergh's father. He said there should be a national bank owned by the people, meaning if you had a community of 10,000 people and they all chipped in $25 and built a community bank, and the bank lend money to everybody at interest, the same as other banks, but the profit would go to the whole community. That's much better than a private bank. The biggest buildings in town are owned by the banks. That means you pay for those buildings by putting your money in those banks. Do you understand what I mean? So if everybody in the community, say 10,000 people, chipped in $10 apiece, they can have community farms, community restaurants, and all the profits goes to everybody in the community. I like that better than what we've got.
Could you talk a little bit about those little hubs of people working, like, what would you call, like, things like Transition Town? And I mean, do you see this as a slow progression towards...
It'll be as fast as people make contact and tell other people about it. Like I said, if you got 2 million people talking about the Venus Project, to others, it spread fast. If they do nothing, it'll take longer and more human suffering. I have no control of that. Depends on what people do. And if they got a better idea for the city, let's hear about it.
Jacques, I don't know if you heard that, or Jason was asking about, do you think that there are stepping stones to the Venus Project, like, you'd have to describe what Transition Towns is about, like Transition Towns or people in different towns making gardens, or...
If you do that, you're going to have people wanting to get into those first towns. And what are you going to do? You can get in, only if they're technical can increase agricultural yield. If we have a problem in agriculture, if the volunteers want to do the physical work, that's all right, but the agronomists will tell them what has to be done. They're not dictators. And if you want to have more soil, you have to shave off the topsoil, not build cities right over black topsoil. I told you, it takes 1,000 years to make 1 inch of topsoil for nature. So we better shave it off and put it in banks, soil banks, where you store it. Another thing I want to tell you, if we got in a nuclear war and people came from another planet to try to find out what we were like, there's no place they can go. The only banks with thick vaults have money in them. They don't have the history of medicine, the history of engineering, the early history of writing and communication. There's no source for knowing what we were like. And banks are the only people that have certificates of debt behind vaults. And all they'll find out is nothing. And you have to tell that to people. You have to tell them the greatest things we have is people that can restore the soil or build air. I don't know if you know about it. Did I talk about a guy named Cottrell? 75 years ago he made electrostatic air filters.
No.
It's laminated sheets of metal. They're separated by just a few inches. And the smoke coming out of factories become electrically charged to the first place. The second place has the same charge as the dust particles or smoke, and they adhere to that. So no smoke comes out of industrial smokestack, just warm air, which we use for drying machines. But they don't even know about Cottrell. So I've never seen a factory with just warm air coming out. You see this dirty smoke coming out, they don't have to put that in. And industry says to government, get off our backs, we'll take care of the problems. The government, meaning people say, we want your smokestacks to have Cottrell precipitators. It doesn't cost that much. It costs about $300 for each smokestack. Oh, well, if the public pays for it, I don't think that's fair. I think the factories ought to pay for it. They're the ones producing the smoke. So if people don't know about these different processes, they can't advocate anything except that our cities are getting dirty. We run our hands over our furniture and it's black. So what we recommended about 40 years ago is that we increase the air pressure in buildings. If it's 16 pounds to the square foot at sea level, we make it about 18 pounds, so no dust gets in your house. You run your hand over, there's no black soot. Just a slight increase in air pressure. But all of those things are not known. So I say, what's the matter with the world today? Nothing's the matter. I like things the way they are. It means you either don't know that your lungs are slowly being damaged, that maybe in 10 or 20 years you're going to get lung cancer. Not just by smoking, just by being in the vicinity where people smoke. Now, do you want to stop smoking? You can make rooms for people that want to smoke. I don't believe in stopping people from doing anything, but that they should know the consequences. Give them a chance, but don't say no to tobacco or say no to drugs. Reagan's wife said that, say no to drugs. Well, nobody's going to say no to drugs. If you can make $1,000 a week selling drugs, he might have a slight conscience. But somebody says, look, nobody gives a shit about you. Why should you care about them? He says, it's true. So he goes out and he sells drugs. Very few people have a conscience.
When we were standing at Andrew's building, you were talking. We were standing, looking over London, and you said, "Look at this place. None of this had ever been. Things just popped up. Nobody sat down and actually organised it." Do you want to talk a little bit about that? About the cities and how the cities we live in now are just urban sprawl. There's been no planning involved, and how the Venus Project is wants to readdress that, and
Okay.
and then if you could move on into automation too, that's just
Instead of urban sprawl,
Yeah.
what we want to do is ask, what is a city? What does a city mean to people? What kind of world do you want to live in? They don't know. They usually don't. So they do the same thing you've been doing. A bunch of houses in a row, air conditioning out of each window, rather than cool air pumped to all the houses. You just take in so much cool air, and the energy you consume has to do with your needs. If he says the air is too cold, he says no, it's too warm. He says it's just right. So what you have to do is zone cooling. You know what I mean? It's cool in your area, warm in your area. So zone cooling is just a central unit with vents on it that can direct cool air to your area, warm air to yours, and it's all one system. I never showed you this, but I don't show it to everybody because they make money with it. They take out patents on it. This is the floor plan of a building. All right, this is the living room, all of this area. This is the bathroom. This is the hallway. Now, one hallway serves 1, 2, 3, 4 outlets. But most of your building has a lot of hallway in it. You can't do anything with that. So the wall divider in this room has a closet on this side and the closet opens on that side. So you don't have to make the walls too thick. The air conditioning is up above this area and vents into all the rooms. Do you understand that? Now, if you had a hurricane and it blew against this wall, this unusual triangle delivers the load to the 4 walls. Do you understand that? If you make a hallway shaped like this, and you have walls here, that delivers, if this is a building, if a hurricane hits this wall, this structure presses against that and that, so all the walls take up the load.
Right.
Minimum hallways. You say, I like hallways. Well, if you make a lot of hallways in a house, you're losing living area. Now, if you put rooms that are super extravagant in each house, then you're depriving other people of material resources. So what we try to do is design the most efficient hallway so loads are distributed in a hurricane to minimize danger in living systems. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you say, the hell with other people, I like a big house, then you don't understand what the Venus Project is trying to do. I want to go back to another system. This is ancient Rome. Then they put a column up here. I must have explained this to some people. This is what the buildings look like in ancient Rome. Something like that, real fast. See it? Can you see it? And then they carved all kinds of curlicues in here and statues of men on horses, whatever they needed. They needed all these columns because they could not support the roof in the old days. But today you have cantilever beams where you don't need all these columns. But in Washington they were impressed by ancient Rome and they put all these kinds of things in libraries. That is no longer necessary. Conservation of materials are strong enough to span a great distance with only 2 columns. But people say, yeah, but I like that. Well, you're wasting resources. Either you house the world, build hospitals all over the world, but if you use these columns, you're wasting existing resources. Is that real clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm against this, except in Rome.
Yes.
If we go to Rome, I want to preserve these areas so people can see what things used to be like. I'm not against destruction of the pyramids. I'd like to build a glass building over it so that they don't rot anyway and show people what it used to be like. But I'm not against building a pyramid building. I don't know what that would serve. Or if a guy dies, you build a gigantic pyramid that cost years to make. And there's one guy buried in it, and his slaves, which are killed, so he'll have slaves when he gets to heaven. I don't know if you know that. But there's so much stupidity in the world. Guy says, I like a pyramid, I love these columns. That means he doesn't give a shit about other people. I do.
Because we're moving from vanity to utility.
Yes.
That's basically
That's a hard thing to get across. He says, do you understand this? Now sometimes the government will build a monument to veterans. There's a big thing you walk through. They have parades through it, and the veteran statues all over the place and names, and it might cost $4 to $5 million. I say, take that money and put it in the veterans' hospitals for MRI machines, X-ray machines, crutches, wheelchairs. We don't want any monuments to veterans. We want things that we need, books, help, artificial legs, artificial eyes, whatever the hell they need. Do you understand that? You guys say, well, what's the matter with a monument? He's a monument builder. He's sincere, but he's ignorant. Do you understand that?
yes.
Yes.
Any questions about that?
No, that's a really good point.
I have nothing I'm not against this. I'm just against it in a world where you have limited resources. Now, here's the city again. It's round, not because I like round cities. If you have a production plant that produces automobiles, this is called linear. The production lines run that way. All I want to do is make a center where the planning engineers for automotive transportation work. So this is a production line. This is a production line for trucks. This is a production line for Jeeps. All of these production lines come out of the central planning area, like this. Do you understand the drawing? They're not necessarily 8. There may be as many as needed. But this end of the factory is up off the ground, so's the rest of it. And the vehicle that picks up the finished products travels and picks up from 20 factories and delivers materials to the factories. Now, if you want to see anybody, go to central planning. These are the guys that plan all the production lines. But if you build a factory in Detroit like this, then you build one over here, Toyota. You got another factory over here. Your trains have to go all over the place to pick up things. In the free enterprise system, these are all separate companies. Here we share ideas in production. Do you understand that? It's got to come out cheaper. It's got to provide more cars than this system. Now another thing, this is so you'll have arguments to win over ordinary people. If you look at a railroad yard today, you'll see lots of tracks with hundreds of freight trains sitting there. And they hope next month orders will come in so those freight trains will be in use. We always have all our freight trains in use. There's no such thing as downtime because it's a co-op. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you'll always have trucks sitting in yards hoping that orders will go up next month. These are vehicles, they don't need to rest. Trains don't need to sleep for 3 nights in a row. So we have our factories going night and day, and you have a swing shift until it's automated. The reason for it night and day, you got a bunch of machines. If you turn it off at night, the machines don't need to rest. You can turn it off once a month for servicing. That's all right. Or a night, 3 nights or 5 nights of servicing. But if you don't do this, if you do what they ordinarily do, you have to take my word for it if you don't know this. If this is a factory, and this is the parking lot, or this is a shopping center, and this is the parking lot. If you make a shopping center round, that's shoes, this is furniture, this is stuff to eat, whatever you got here, you park adjacent to where you're going. In this system, you walk through the whole shopping center, and then you have to go back to where you started. In this system, you start here and you always come back to where you're at. So it's cheaper for automobiles to park in adjacent areas. But if this area is larger, more people are going here, you have movable walls. So they slide, and in the shopping of food, say it's larger, you roll your walls over. Do you understand what I'm saying? This way you build a factory, and if business is bad, it closes. You move your walls up and back for different changes in production and need. And you have round factories with walls that travel on rails up and back, and each size can be varied depending on how you're doing. If you're feeding enough people, you can move your wall over and make it smaller. If you don't have enough food, you make it larger. Is that real clear? This is the detail I don't give out, because people will patent it and start using it, and they'll make money on it commercially. So I don't like to give out detail of how the system works. When a guy, I talked to you about the airplanes, I think, if the landing gear fails, all that's patentable stuff. And I'd like it to be part of the new economy. Now, if Detroit does this, you know, in an automobile, Toyota will do the same thing. And then Toyota, if the Toyota does it, I think they can beat Detroit in a little more ingenuity. And so here Detroit is up with a big factory that's automated, which they can't sell. If Toyota can turn out the same product cheaper, you can't sell your factory. Do you understand that? If you have a factory that turns out refrigerators, and you have a factory that turns out, if you're 10 times as fast as this guy, you don't want to share it with this guy, because you want to maintain the competitive edge. So this guy can't sell his factory. But he borrowed money from banks to build in this sort of stuff. So the bank says, how long will it take you to amortize the cost of that? He says, 4 years, then I'll change my production. But you've got better production methods. And he can't afford to keep borrowing money from banks and updating his equipment. That's why the free enterprise can't keep up with things. But when it belongs to the public, what you really need instead of a production line is machines that can change their function to mass production, modify them, make them so they're flexible. Do you know what that means? If you don't know what it means,
Less moving parts, more maneuverability.
You know what jigs and fixtures are in industry?
No.
Like they have tube bending equipment that'll bend pipes of different diameters.
Yes.
All right. So what you need is dies that can bend pipes any size, so they can get smaller or larger instead of a fixed production system. That all machines of steel will be designed for maximum flexibility. Instead of people welding things together, which takes time and money, if you don't understand this drawing, this is a drawing of an I-beam. I'd like you to understand it. You understand that drawing of an I-beam? The I-beam has a thing sticking out on it, and it has what looks like a half a buck, very thick, sticking out here. And then the walls have a keyhole in them that look like this. And you stick this into the keyhole and drop it down, you don't need to weld it. And you can disassemble it faster if you got better ideas. And you can use these beams over again in different ways. There are thousands of different multi-use products, but people that do welding make a lot of money. The system doesn't make as much money, but it'll knock the other guy out. And if you make buildings, let's say you made a building old-fashioned, and the memory metals are just in the joints right here and right here, not the whole building. So when you turn this in and that in, you deliver a thing like this, and then turn the memory on, and it goes up like that. The joints are just here, the memory metal, not the whole building. It's just in the joints. So if you turn the building in like that, collapse it, turn the memory on, it goes up like that, out. But people think I'm using memory metals throughout the whole building, just the joints. So when I say, yeah, but who's going to make the memory metals? The memory metals are extruded automatically. It's very easy to do, that's the way they do it today. So when people say to me, well, what's the matter with today's stuff? If you make a refrigerator round like this, and all the shelves rotate, you can't get to the back of your refrigerator. You have to take everything out to get to the milk bottle. If they're round, you rotate it, you fill all your stuff in. And you don't need to open the whole door, just this sliding area.
That's great.
You understand?
Yes.
All right, now, all the ovens, I think I mentioned this before, will have a pinnacle sticking up like that, instead of a heater coil. Your pots will have an indent in the middle sticking up, all of them. So if you're making soup, the heat only goes through the soup. Do you understand it? So you got a coffee pot here, there's a pinnacle sticking up. The heating element is not in the pot, it's on the stove sticking up. So when you put the coffee thing, the heat only goes through the coffee. You know what that would save a nation in energy? Rather than a hot plate underneath it, where the heat goes all over the place. And you have to wait till the heat goes through the whole thing. Here it goes through faster. You'll save millions of kilowatts of oil, energy, electric generators, everything. But the electric companies would not like it in a private system. They'd rather sell a gas range or heat range in every apartment. I would rather make the apartments large and have dining areas for the whole community instead of housewife making bacon and eggs every day. I'd rather photograph Chef Milani making food and then program computers. I don't know if you know that. A surgeon has 10 tremors per second in the hand. Computers have none. So when they do surgery, they cut with a controlled depth. Well, the doctor has to do it first so the computer can measure his position in space. Then thereafter that operation, a doctor doesn't know anything. When he cuts a person open and it turns red, he says hemostat, and he clamps that area. Where did he get that in medical school? If you teach a computer to scan for color, suddenly red blood comes out, the hemostat goes on it. See, a doctor says to a nurse, hemostat, and the nurse gives him a hemostat, right in his hand. Then he says clamps, and the nurse gives him clamps. A turret head, when the doctor says hemostat, it turns and he takes it. Nurse, the clamps, blood clot, whatever the conditions are, he gets. Sooner or later, the material doing the surgery will scan, make sure there's no hemorrhage. And if there is a hemorrhage, it's immediate. The turret head turns and locks it. But a doctor has to look at it. Another student says, see, that's a hemorrhage. He's got to instruct people. Your computer or your laptop has a lot of information, but it's just a computer. In the future, the computers will be connected to industrial processes. So the computer doesn't say things without altering the production process. When the computer is connected to machines, it can say hemostat, this, that. So we're just looking at a world where computers are connected mostly to people. In the future, they'll be connected to industry, agriculture, so you'll know what the hell's going on all over the world. Right now, they talk about centralization. You know what that means? Decentralizing. Because when you have Washington, D.C. here, and this is the United States, Washington doesn't know what's going on in Florida, nor the state of Washington, nor New York. So they say, we want to decentralize, but with computers connected to Washington, Oregon, Florida, Key West, you know what's going on all over the country. And since you don't have any vested interest in Florida, there's no reason to decentralize. Then you got to have computers all over the place. Here they're connected to the whole of America or the world, so you know on one central computer everybody has a model of the Earth in their home. When you get to Venus, I'll show you a model of the Earth, and you touch it. It gives you the population, the Atlantic Ocean, the ice. It speaks as you touch different areas. Have you seen
The
that?
cybernetic complex is what you
Yes.
call it, yeah.
Now then you can get the depth of the ocean, the production, ice formation, hurricanes, everything on Earth is in your home. So if you want to know anything about any state, you plug it in, you touch it. Or you don't even need to touch it, get in proximity, but it'll tell you what's going on. Just like a little unit you move your fingers by.
And everyone will have access to that information. It won't, so like Wikipedia and that kind of stuff. It'll be,
Jack can't hear you.
everyone will have access to that information.
Oh,
yes.
Well, mostly people that have concern about those things, that manipulate the environment. Everybody wouldn't want that in their home, but guys who want to know, if I build a dam here, what's going to happen there 5 years from now? The computer extrapolates, tick, 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 based on known information. It says, if you build a dam here, it's going to cause a drought there 4 years from now, not immediately. The computer extrapolates. If you build 4,000 planes a month, there's no airport to receive 300 landings an hour. They can't. So it scans all the airports, then it tells you how many planes to build. But if you build cities all over the place and food is way over here, how much does it cost to transport that food? So food has to surround each city, photoelectric cells, solar power. Each city has to be self-sufficient because electric lines lose a lot of energy over long transmission unless you produce absolute zero. There's no loss. But the energy to produce absolute zero costs a lot. You know what I mean? So
I was going to say earlier that we will streamline production
but
as
you
much
know,
as we can.
Just saying that, give them an example.
Mm.
But don't give them details.
Right.
Just say by having a central air conditioner, piping it to all the buildings better than one hanging out of each window.
Right.
But it's good for the electric companies, the other one. So I don't want a person making bacon and eggs every morning. I want Chef Milani, or whatever they call the best cook, to chop up onions and do what he wants, but photograph every motion he makes. If you're not familiar with that, I think I told some of you that the auto companies spray rubber under the metal so the rain won't drive you crazy. It deadens the sound. But a guy has to spray rubber under the car first, and the computer measures every move he makes and logs it in, see? And then thereafter, From there on out, the cars are sprayed automatically with rubber. Now if you teach, say 1A or 1B, we photograph you teaching. We photograph 99% of the questions kids ask and put in additionals. So he doesn't go to school every day and says the same thing to 1A and 1B. 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8. That's done automatically. His image comes into the class full size. Good morning, students. And he then tells them about history of the United States without propaganda. And he tells them, but he can be out sailing a boat. I don't want him there every day doing the same thing. You can go back to school and study advanced teaching systems, whatever you want. But if you do every day get in and drill holes in metal, it's the same process. We can easily automate it. Yes.
Do you see this as a for education? I mean, surely that could solve
Yes, technical
all.
education.
But right across the entire globe, if you could have the best teacher, and
Photograph.
yes,
So he can have 40 schools
Yeah.
instead of one. Yes.
and put
absolutely.
all those kids in Africa
By
and
getting the
Madagascar
best training.
on a some kind of route. Maybe they do it on the computer, but they go on a.
We
on-
can't have good teachers go from one school to another.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to photograph them delivering like you're doing now. This lecture, I hope, if it's recording, will appear many places.
Yes.
It won't change everybody because the language is not convenient for everybody. But done on multiple levels in the future, for coal miners, members of the Ku Klux Klan, each lecture has to be by a Southerner, by a black man to the black community, by a Polish guy to Poland. Like if I go to Africa, they invited me to Africa, and I'm lecturing to black people there, what the hell is Whitey doing here? You know what I mean? They'd rather hear it from a member of their own group with a foreign accent. France would love a Frenchman to do that. So that's where people are at, and that's what we must do. Is it the right thing? No, but it's the right thing for the present day. So the way I talk to the Klan today is not the way I talk to them a month from now. You understand that? It's an entirely ever-changing system. It has no fixed methods. This is the way you do it. This is the way we do it now because that's the best we know up to now. So don't ever talk of final frontiers or utopia or the best airplane or the best human arrangements. Humans will vary with the changing of the exterior. They will undergo change. And the change they undergo will be induced by the environment they live in. And like I said before, people will say, well, I like the future. If you took your grandmother to Miami Beach and she saw the girls with their butts hanging out, she's going to say, I don't like that. They've gone too far. And she's right where she's coming from, but not right for the new times. So you got to remember, it's not a question whether you will like the future. Are you educated to understand the future? So we hope to condition people to accept change, not get attached to New York City or old Paris with the Eiffel Tower. If you get attached to Greenwich Village, you know, it's charming with tables outside, you sit around over coffee and talk. You can become attached to anything. Old cities, everything. We don't want people to be attached. We want to say, write to computer company and tell us what you want additional. Well, I want my computer to be a camera too. I'd also like it to be an alarm clock. I'd like it to tell me what events are occurring in society that I might enjoy. Well, the computer engineer says, your computer can't do that until we put your value system into the computer. So it scans your values and tells you what you might enjoy. Do you understand what I mean? The computer will not be able to tell you anything. Unless you're interested in flying, sports flying, scuba diving, you put all your interest in the computer and then it'll notify you with a blinking light of an exhibit that you might enjoy. But also it'll notify you of exhibits you may not understand but will be relevant to your interest. Do you think you know what I mean?
Well,
But
this-
it can't do that unless you talk to people. I mentioned flying, scuba diving, skiing, water skiing, engineering, mechanics, and chemistry. The more you put into that computer, the more the computer will tell you what's available to him. So you can go back to school, or you can go in the lab and work on things. You don't, in other words, you submit ideas to the chemistry department. They say, if they say, we don't think it'll work, you have access to any lab to disprove them. Because what people say is not necessarily true. So you have access. Like I said before, if you want to build your own airplane, we put a gadget in that airplane so you can't fly over cities with it. If it's your own design without approval, over ocean only. And if it's proven to be safe, then that gadget is taken out and it could be guided by satellite or flown by you. If you die of a heart attack, the plane is switched over to automatic and it lands at the nearest airport. We don't want to put people in passenger airliners that are only pilots. If they get a heart attack, the passengers all die. So we want to put 6 circuits in it on separate lines. If one fails, they always ask, what if the computer fails? They always picture one computer making decisions on everything. On an ocean liner, you have captains and you have people that can take over in case the captain dies. You have a lot of people. Then you have people trained to lower the lifeboats. You got all kinds of people on an ocean liner to handle contingencies that that ocean line is subject to. Now, it doesn't handle media hitting it because the probability is 0. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when they keep saying who makes the decisions, just say no one, but we gather together information related to that problem. I think I mentioned this. When the ship is sinking, women and children first. We don't do that. We say, do you know anything about navigation? Get on the boat. Do you know how to catch fish in the open sea? Get on the boat, then women and children. Otherwise they'll all starve to death. Do you understand that? But we have little books that people go by, and we must verify that. Is that clear?
Yes.
Anything you don't understand?
No.
Okay, now, all the labs in the future have a bulletin board that's electronic, just like the airlines. Cincinnati at 4:15, you know, have bulletin boards, and it says on the bulletin board, we've solved the problem of stroke. Now we can work on different brands of heart disease. Every lab will be blinking when problems are solved, the next problem in line. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to know that you got a flat tire in your car. You want a machine in the car that keeps air in the tire and the blink when it needs servicing. So you drive your car to your house and your car will say, I'm going to service, and plug in. It's got its own plugs, 10 of them, plugs in, and the car analysis of what's wrong, the valves need grinding or whatever it is. You don't need a mechanic taking the car apart and say your valve needs grinding. You know what fiber optics is? It's a bundle of glass fibers, and you put that crooked thing into a machine and you can see broken gears without taking it all apart. They have a gadget today, it's about this thick. They shove it up your ass, it goes into your intestines, and you can see the cancer, how spread it is, without cutting the guy open and looking. Fiber optics is used up through the nose, down the throat, into the lungs. So in the future, fiber optic and ultrasonic scanners. Instead of spraying plants with poison, we study the sound range of insects, way up to 80,000 cycles per second down. And then we study what insects are good for plants and how will that sound affect them. So we study the sound effects of insects, rodents that eat food, and we project that sound into the environment, so you don't need to spray poisons on plants.
Malaria? Could you talk about malaria as well?
Yes.
I've heard you say something.
Malaria, 2 million people die every year in Africa of malaria. Now, so they spray the swamp with oil. Oil seals the water so the fleas, mosquitoes can't get out, the larvae can't get out, but the fish get no oxygen, so the fish die and mosquitoes. And the swamp water, the spray sinks down eventually and contaminates the groundwater. So what we do, don't discuss this, we have a light under the water and color band turning. And the color band is for the kind of insects you want to attract. So at night they fly right into the light and they drown. Do you understand? The light's under the water, not above.
I see.
If it was above, they'd hit and fry and die. So you can put it under the water. And thousands of malaria mosquitoes hit, the fish eat them, and you get more food.
Yeah.
Not just malaria mosquitoes, you get more food to feed people. That's the kind of research we do.
Are they doing that now?
No, of course
Has
not.
anybody tried this technique? Has
I've
anybody?
got billions of different ideas, and I will not, if I gave it out, people will take out patents and charge you so much for doing that and so much for doing this. I want to release that if we get a global economy. If I don't, this system can perpetuate a little longer, and I'm not too interested in that.
Have you put these ideas in a safe place for?
No, I've got them all over the place. I've got thousands of things
Good.
in Venus, Florida.
Good.
But I want you to know that every aspect of the future, even concrete, like you see out there, concrete decks of buildings, we have an injector that injects particles into the mixture of concrete. And then it forms air bubbles all through the concrete, so it's 1/5 the weight. But where the concrete meets the metal molds, it becomes dense. So the center's core is full of bubbles, which is insulation, no condensation, lightweight, and stronger. And we use much less concrete if you have air bubbles in the middle. Solid concrete is not as strong as air bubbles in the middle. Did you know that? So if you do that, it's like in the old days, a pilot used to have a fire extinguisher in the cockpit. Well, if a plane engine caught fire, it's hard for him to put the engine on. So we have nozzles on the airplane at all areas where fire can occur. What you do is when fire occurs, the nozzle sprays. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
It's a thin pipe, you don't have a lot, on all areas of probable fire. That comes from studies of fire on aircraft.
Could you talk more about decision making in the Venus Project? Because
Yes.
a lot of people find it hard
Yes.
to understand.
Okay. Who makes decisions? The question is, in what area? Agriculture, agronomists. Is that clear? Yeah. Is that clear?
Yes.
And or engineering and mass production engineers, or anybody else that has any ideas.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a production engineer. Fire safety hazards, safety engineers, there are people like that study that. Then there are people that investigate airplane crashes. It's called the FHA, the federal government has an agency, and they go and they look for whether the body was blown out by an explosion, or whether the engine failed, or whether a bird flew into the turbines. But airplanes are not rigged to generate a certain sound that'll keep birds away from the airplane. That's what's needed. So that goes blinking in every lab. What do you need for air safety? It lists a whole lot of things, and you start on that. You understand? So labs don't just work on anything. It's a survey committee that tells them what to work on. So it's never a dictatorship. Now it looks like to normal people that you're telling him what to work on. Where do you get it? From surveys. So it's not you dictating. Do you understand that? Yeah. Is Fresco there telling everybody what to do? No. It's telling them what they ought to do in order to come up with ideas. But if you see anything wrong with anything, bring it up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
So there's no dictatorship in it. Now, who runs the whole system? With global connections to shipping, agriculture, you can see conditions on Earth. Every hurricane, every iceberg melting, the temperature all over the world. So your decisions are right before you. Now, you don't need a person sitting there. You can have electronic inserts all over the world. So, I don't know if you know this, but under the ocean, when an earthquake occurs, it pushes the ocean up. That's what a tsunami is. If you have flotation units in the ocean connected to transmitters, when a tsunami builds up pressure in the ocean, that transmitter transmits to all the islands within 1,000 miles that a wave will come 3 hours from now. Get the hell out of this shit. Get off the beaches, get inland, seek heights. There's certain things we can't do. If a tsunami occurs near the shore, we can only do this. We want to put in a mile away from the islands. This is an island, all land. This is the tsunami coming toward that land. You can either build a barrier here, you know what that means? Barrier of stones, or you can build a wedge 1 mile away. The wedge is concrete, and it's got reinforcement all through it, like this, and it's floated and sunk in front of all islands. It's a mile out at sea. So when the tsunami hits, by the time the mass wave gets there, it's parted. This would take too much material. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Now, it's very easy to copy and patent. But I'm just telling you, just say, well, I've seen a lot of things at the Venus Project that take care of those problems. But how does it work? That's a commercial question.
Right.
You know what that means? That's a commercial question. How does it work? Yes, people can make money with that. Say, we don't disclose how our concrete is lighter and better. We use, in some instances, bicarbonate of soda mixed in the concrete, and that produces bubbles in the concrete. But they're better mixtures than bicarbonate of soda. But I was just giving you an idea. There are two metals. One is called antimony, and the other is called bismuth. If you twist them together and put a match on one end and heat it, the other end becomes ice cool. So if you make your roof of dissimilar metals with the cool end, the one end up and the other end inside the building, the hotter the sun gets, the cooler the building gets. No air conditioning, no pumps, just the weather itself. The metal is antimony and bismuth twisted together. If you tell that to people, they might eventually make roofs of that.
Thermodynamics.
Hmm?
Thermodynamics.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, now here's another thing. These are the things that you should know, but try not to disclose it. When you make a roof of a building, they make it of tiles, one tile over the other, like that. Have you ever seen them?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's a tile roof. The tile roof does not support itself. It's dead weight. But if you make a corrugation like this, of tile, and it's one continuous surface, it's self-supporting. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
If you metallize this, you know, metallize means spray liquid metal on a very thin coat, and then put glass coat over that, it won't rust.
Right.
Then you put, I'm going to just blow up one corrugation. It's an inverted corrugation, like this. And this is silver, highly reflective. If you put a pipe here, you can concentrate the sun rays on water. And the pipe is not round, it's shaped more like this, with a mirror coat in the back. So you heat all that water, and it runs up and back through the corrugations. So not only is it a roof that reflects and heats water, it's self-supporting. Corrugations these tiles do nothing. They're long lasting, but they're dead weight on the roof. Do you understand that? Engineers use terms. They call it dead load. When you design the building, a dead load is everything in the building. The closets, the stuff that's not moved around. The live load are people walking around. So the dead load on this is practically zero because it's self-supporting. Do you understand that?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
So when a person says, what are you going to do for energy? The word is geothermal. That's natural heat of the earth. Underneath, about 50 miles, is magma, molten stuff. The continents float on that magma, and they drift. All the continents are always drifting. So, geothermal heat is there forever. So with geothermal energy, you can run the earth for thousands of years. I just said 1,000 on the internet. But thousands of years of energy. All along the California coast, under the oceans, are geothermal vents. So forgetting geothermal, the temperature difference between the surface of the ocean and the bottom. There are rivers under the ocean that are ice cold that go through the tropics. So if you can generate electricity by temperature difference. It's called temperature differential. Oh, she wants me to take vitamin pills.
So you do take vitamins. What is your diet? Because do you?
Good idea.
Yes. Do you think?
When you
So-
travel, vitamin C or doctors
Yeah,
say.
otherwise you catch cold in an airplane because the same air is circulated. If you use electrostatic filters, you can, ultraviolet tubes, the air goes through those, sterilize, all airborne bacteria die, then the air comes back. All airlines will be equipped with not just pumps that pump the air around, but ultraviolet to sterilize it and maintain the oxygen content, which is best for, if you have 500 passengers, it's different than 200. Do you understand that?
Maya just said that they're downstairs.
Can I do one more question?
Yeah.
Who's downstairs? The group?
All right,
Yeah.
energy.
I have to go and catch a train because it's 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Energy, heat concentrators, that's a parabolic reflector. The rooftop is heat concentrators. Photoelectric cells, wind for energy. But if you just use the wind alone, build generators all over it, that will take care of the nations of the world. But if you use heat concentrators, that can take care of everything. There are areas that are cold, that are overcast all the time. So you'll use geothermal energy there. So different areas would use the tropics, for example, can get far more energy than they need from the sun. But if you want to live, say, in areas that will not support human life, like the tundra, you know where I'm talking about? The northern Canada. You build underground cities 800 feet long with a dome ceiling. And then you have trees growing on top. But in the underground cities you have palm trees, orange trees, because it's heated by geothermal energy. You can live there if you want to. So you can walk around in shorts all winter, or take an elevator up and go skiing on the upper surface. You understand? People have to know about these things.
Jack, there's a group downstairs. They want us to move downstairs. Did you have a question, Simon? One question you
Just-
said?
Just one.
That's right.
He's still going.
Yeah.
Just interdisciplinary teams. How would they work?
Oh, they're connected because one team designs the structure and the other suggests metallurgists what metal are made out of. And another metal student is one of rust and deterioration. And he recommends the outer coating. Titanium, you know that metal, rusts 1/1000th of an inch in salt water in 1,000 years. So all materials will be coated with a thin coat of titanium.
Right.
That's not decided by the structural engineer.
Right.
It's material preservation engineers. So that when the structure's finished, they turn it over to you. And new developments over to you. What's new? And he says there's a better material than titanium.
Right. Okay.
We just found it.
What?
Yeah.